Okay, so here we are in Soldier Kings as we move into 1761, and dealt the cards out, didn't even look at them, looking at the board situation, talking to people, the people in my head. The Russian-Dutch agreement, 6 money for 2 manpower, that remained. The Russians are perfectly willing to take that. They don't think the Dutch can win. With people aware that they're close now, it just doesn't seem possible. The Spanish-Turkish agreement got renegotiated a little bit. Not that they had made any kind of agreement that it would be forever anyway. Also to the 6 for 2. Spain is finding it can't afford $10, and when it comes down to it, Turkey's willing to take any money in exchange for their manpower, and certainly from Spain, who's really in poor position right now. So, I mean, it's not, they'd probably have gone down even less had they been pushed. But Spain definitely could afford the $6. They're here at 29 now, which is where the Dutch are too. Spain may be able to resurge and take some of its territory back, especially since the French are fairly close to victory here at 14 victory points. Yeah, they're not a terrible threat, but you know, take Lombardy and they're 1 point away, right? So they're doing fairly well. English would have liked to have gotten some kind of deal, but you know, these countries don't really see a great reason to support England at this point, although the English aren't doing terribly well. Alright, well, I guess we'll start the actual play of the turn, buying some new forces and rolling the initiative die rolls, one of those tedious mechanical tasks. I usually like games with mechanical tasks, but not when it comes down to just rolling lots of dice or counting up what I find to be kind of a disturbing way of looking at the board. I like filling out my you know, my tax forms in something like EU, but, or at least I used to. I'm not sure I would anymore. I don't have a calculator anymore, which is one of the problems. Alright, onward we go. Well, the troops for the year are down and purchased. We got a pile of infantry coming in and a couple of boats. I think only the French are building up their navy. They have the money to do it, so why not? Also determined the order of play. We can see the Spanish got to go last. The Russians chose to go before the Turks. They had a middling roll. Everyone else pretty much went as late as they could. Alright. Well, the turn started out kind of slowly. The Russians attacking Turkish and Crimean territory. Kind of lackadaisically, but not really gaining anything, actually. They got a foothold in Greece and attacked the Crimeans. They put a vacillating general on the one Turkish general to prevent him from moving. The Turks kind of just regrouped their forces down here in Albania. The Prussians held off. They're going to move with the Brits, and I haven't done the Brits yet. The Dutch evacuated Tuscany to come around and made an attack on the Netherlands, which was defeated. Their forces are out at sea, all of them now. Actually, no, they didn't make the attack on the Netherlands. They were, I think, just sitting there. The French came in and attacked them and drove them out. I forgot to roll the Dutch for their one attack that they should have made, which didn't do anything. And I forgot a French roll, too. Down here, which was an attack. And they can't be hurt. But they did a point towards getting that. But then the Austrians did some very bold moves. First of all, they slipped into the Netherlands, which is still held by the Dutch at this point, and liberated it, taking it away from the French giving them 4 of their victory points. They moved down into Italy to go take Tuscany. They haven't gotten there yet. They succeeded in Saxony, and they advanced into Russia up here and took half of White Russia. That's not worth anything yet, but they did take Bosnia completely, and now they're at 11 points. They're not far, and immediately things look ugly again in terms of, wow, the Austrians are really a threat once more. France may have to consider stabbing them. All right, now we go to the English and finally the poor Spanish. And the spring turn finishes up with the English and the Spanish coming to a sort of an agreement. England gets to keep Virginia and Florida. The Spanish withdrew from Virginia. The English still held it. And they're going to march up and attack the Canadian territories. The English moved their forces out and went and captured the Leeward Islands. That's a lot of money out. France is down to +7 at this point. I think England's still behind, but barely so now. The Prussians and the Swedes made attacks. Berlin, 2 hits on Berlin, but a Swedish army knocked back. The Prussians attacked into Warsaw, but they were defeated by the Poles there. The Swedish Navy went looking for the Dutch here. Basically, everything's turned into this massive kind of chaotic rumble. Just trying to grab points at this point and try to keep people from winning. Unfortunately, the person who's in the best place to win, the Austrians, is hard for Spain to really affect. And the Prussians and English are doing whatever they can against them. But it's looking like France has to jump in. And maybe England, at the very least, will say, look, France, we'll stop taking your valuable Caribbean islands if you go against Austria at this point. I'm not sure. Everyone else has to be kind of allied against them, though. But, it's tough because this Russo-Turkish war, how do you stop it, yeah, sure, Austria is a danger, and Turkey's getting carved up from all directions. Can the Russians agree to leave Turkey alone at this point? I don't know. All right. And the Prussians and the Spaniards, and the English along with the Prussians, got the first moves in this turn, the summer of '61 turn. And a lot has happened here. First of all, the English took the Windward Islands, and I think they're actually a positive at this point. I've got to get a number for them. The Spaniards took part of Lower Canada there. What else do we have? We have the English, the Swedes, and the Prussians sieging Warsaw, Berlin, and Magdeburg, respectively. So at this point, the goal is just to drop everyone down as much as possible. Hit those Austrians hard. They've got the force now to start doing it because the Austrians have spread out to try to get that victory. Well, we're going to take the Prussian territories back if the Austrians don't react. And they don't have a lot to react with up there because they inserted themselves into some dangerous areas. Spain is unwilling to accept any kind of deal from France that France is willing to make. They've moved their forces together here into Catalonia, which is still French-controlled, as opposed to Provence, which is Spanish-controlled. And they're moving forward. The English continued their blitz because the French didn't grab the first move and show their intentions. So at this point, the French are very unwilling to make a move against Austria. To them, it looks like Austria is in trouble in terms of they're not going to make their victory very quickly. So France is going to look after their own interests. And we're really seeing the alliances develop here, which are really the English and Spaniards, although they're still technically at war. They can't help it in the game, but in terms of New England and New York, England's not happy with those in Spanish hands. But they've kind of had a truce and agreed that the Spanish can hold them as long as they're attacking the French. And as long as they attack the French down in Spain itself. Likewise, there's not really anything else that they're in contention about, to tell you the truth. The Dutch are still kind of the wild card in this, although the Russians and Turkish are kind of a wild card as well, in the sense that they're at war with each other and want to stop Austria. But if it looks like Austria is not really a problem, although they're both invaded by Austria, actually, they may not pursue that too heavily and continue with their own war a little bit heavier. All right, well, on to the Dutch, who aren't quite sure what they're going to do. The Dutch landed their army and actually, with a heavy expenditure, retook Holland. And they also had a little engagement with the South Pacific forces, knocked them out of the Sukanda now, and they're prepared to move into Brunei if need be. Just, nothing better to do down there. And then the Russians failed to take Greece, but they took the Crimea out. The Turks don't have any more Crimean troops, so the Crimea is no longer a minor country. Someone could, of course, play a card. The Russians could actually free the Crimea, but right now they want that victory point more, I think. And they happen to ignore the Austrians. That means probably the Turks will also ignore the Austrians. Austria is sitting at 11 victory points. Pretty much nobody else is ahead of the game. Russia at 5 and the Dutch at 6. Now Russia, are they one of the 10-pointers? Yes, they are. So 3 people are within 5 points of victory at this point. Of course, the only person of those who could make more ground this turn is the Austrians. And they've taken their major blow. France isn't going to stab them at this point. Turkey's not going to attack them. So they may actually gain some ground. Okay, well, that's the end of the summer of 1761, and it looks like I'm going to need another video, so I'll wrap this one up. But let's go into what happened here. After that, the Turks advanced into Macedonia, drove the Russians out, and really kind of did a number on them, but then also started a siege there. They bought multiple rounds of combat, 2 rounds, and the Russians retreated after the first. After that, the Austrians moved into Berlin, or into Magdeburg, to take the slight defensive advantage they have there. They continued their siege up here in White Russia. They didn't get anywhere with that. They moved here and destroyed a British army. Oh, I haven't rolled this one. That's not very good. But they'll do it anyway. They're attacking the Dutch holding Tuscany. They don't really have good numbers there. And they can't move the fleet into play. Okay, well, they didn't get anything and they didn't lose anything. But yeah, mainly they're in a holding pattern right now, saying, I got 11 victory points. No one's anywhere near that, really. I'm 4 from winning. That puts me at the same range as Holland, but I have a lot more ability to hold what I've got. So I tell you what, maybe I'll be able to win next turn, maybe not. But if not, at least I'm in fairly good position. Got a lot of troops coming in this next turn, though, so... Savoy, I don't even know who owns Savoy anymore. Jeez. I forgot who got them. It's not France, I'll tell you that. I think it's the Dutch. It's not Dutch. Yeah, the Dutch have Savoy. Odd choice there. Who else? Spain, Sweden, France has a couple. The Danes, the Russians, and the Crimeans are non-existent, so they're just gonna go away. But yeah, basically a big mix of different countries getting them. The French didn't manage to take Rio del Plata yet, and I guess that's about it. I'll I'll boot this one up and hopefully be able to finish the turn and maybe the game, or finish the year and maybe the game on the next turn. All right, let's see.